Hey guys, thanks for joining us here again on the green chair. Where is it? There you go. Green chair is becoming a bit famous now. Got a few comments on this. So yeah, I can't remember where I got this chair actually, but I'll put it in the comments. Yeah, if anyone's interested, I can put it in the comment and you guys can buy it. It's cool, it's swivelly, and it's relaxing. I recommend it. Let's talk about Cyronics. So Cyronics are they're a company that freezes, okay, they freeze humans, they freeze animals, and then they wake them up in the future. Okay, and they charge $200,000 for this service. Already we see how funny this is. Anyone that's smart enough will see how funny this is. But people are falling for this. And I mean, very clever people are falling for this. So, I want to talk about that. Also want to talk about maybe a few more, ideas that have come up there that people rush to, people spend money on, and just bypass physics or logic or common sense. Or just don't want to doubt because they don't want to doubt, because you don't want to be the negative person. So I understand people trying to be negative on comment or trying to be positive, sorry, and don't want to be negative. And that's true, right? So I mean, it happens to us as well. Again, we're a startup, so I'm the CEO of Aruka. Aruka has a smart payment ring. So it is possible. Again, we're doing something brand new, right? In the sense that right now people pay with cash. So we see a lot of negative people going, oh, I want to pay with cash. Cash is king, things like that, right? That's true. You want to pay with cash. However, you can't carry cash everywhere. You carry cash to a night out, to a concert. What are you going to do? You're going to pay with cash. And then what happens if that runs out? You have to go get an ATM machine, right? And then your government is going to track if you're worried about the government. But, so there's always things like that you try to avoid, right? So cash is not really, yeah, I love cash. We should use cash. It's powerful to use cash, but you can't use cash everywhere. You can't go swimming with cash, but you can use this to swim. Yeah, you can go swimming with this. You only go on the underground. Underground these days, trains, metros don't take cash. So what you can do is you can tap to pay with this. So it's a convenient form of payment on your fingertips, right? So it's cool, it's exciting. Now we have a few customers around the world. So we're already, again, globally, let's just say, and we're excited with our customers. And we have a few really, really ardent followers, right? These are followers that tell me, hey, we want gold tomorrow, right? So there's a customer specifically that's getting married and he wants a model form, a custom form of his ring for him and his wife, so that they will now actually make payments together from a joint account, which I think is the coolest thing possible. So again, we accommodate that, and we just allow you, again, if you want to make payments from your fingertips, we help with that. If you want to open your office, your keys, so you don't need the keys anymore, you don't need your wallet, you can do that. If you pay by phone, that's fine, but your battery better be strong enough. This doesn't need battery. As you see, there's no battery on these things. So it's cool, it's exciting, and it's innovative. I say all that to talk about how it doesn't make sense for some products. You see what I mean? Because again, people see these and you can ask the question, you can say, whoa, how do you make payments? That's it. Like, you need to be inquisitive. You need to ask, how are you making a payment from a ring? And we'll tell you, okay, listen, this is it. It's a MasterCard chip. So we are a fintech. We're a banking app, in the sense that we're a banking app that comes with a ring, as opposed to a banking app that comes with a card, or a banking app that just has an app. We have an app and we have a ring. We're innovative in that sense, right? And that makes sense to ask that. And we need to answer that. And then you see an answer. You see it before you go ahead and spend your money on this ring that you can tap to pay. You see the benefits. Cyronics, I hope I'm pronouncing that properly. Cyronics, right? They've come up, and they're a European startup, and they've come up with an idea where they freeze people. So again, the idea of us being, living forever has always been there. We all want to live forever as long as we can. We're starting to live longer than we can. Okay, that's the truth. Like those days, in the last 2,000 years, I think we've on average, our lifespan has gone up by 20 years. So, again, listen, the presidents of the country, look at the president. Trump is 80 something. I'm from Nigeria. Our president is 80 something. So we're living longer. Yeah. So I know everyone's complaining. Yeah, everyone's complaining how tough times are, but people are living longer. People are ruling longer. People are leading longer. Again, I'm from my 40s starting my company. Those days, you'd have to be in your 20s, you'll be starting a company. So people are living longer, which is good. But what shouldn't happen as well is for us to fall into scams like that. I'll call it a scam because they haven't given a date. If I came up and I say, hey, this ring is coming out in the future, buy it now. What date is it? I don't know. When is it going to come? I don't know, right? I don't give anything substantive and I say, just buy the ring. You're going to turn around and be saying, whoa, listen, let's see some evidence. So that's the issue I have with Cyronics, right? They've come up with 200 and they say, it's 200,000, you pay now and someone and they freeze your body. But a doctor has to pronounce you dead on the scene. Then when you're dead, then they freeze it, okay? And then in future, they'll wake you up. They haven't said exactly when in the future. They haven't said if this has worked with anybody. The only evidence they have is one person that was clinically dead, and then was frozen for a few minutes and apparently came back. Here's the stats. How many people do you think are clinically dead, declared clinically dead per year? That's a lot. In fact, you want to pause this video and go look at it. It's a lot of people. A lot of people are clinically dead for split seconds when they come back. So it's not a miracle that you've just come up with something that is, that just come up and then you're like, oh yeah, look, one person was clinically dead. Oh, look, there you go. It's frozen for split second and now they're back. Proven, so it's a concern that I think, guys, please be careful. They haven't specifically said it did when they wake you up. So please don't go spend 200,000. If you have 200,000 to spend and you're on your deathbed, please give it to charity. Please give it to real medical research. Please give it to your kids. Give it to your pets if you don't have kids. Give it to the poor, but please don't give it to companies who claim that they're going to wake you up in the future. Please, okay? No matter how realistic that gets, you have to still think, okay, who's going to come back, So Cyronics is one, right? And I want to talk about others because I'm like, okay, is it just one? Hopefully there's not a whole lot, right, that like that. There are, right? So I'll come up with 5, just off the top of my head. If you can think of more companies that were crazy, that came up with crazy ideas and had crazy valuations like that, let me know. I'm going to start with Theranos. So Theranos were a blood thinning company as well. So what they did blood tests with just a sample of a prick of blood. So they would go in and just take a sip, just a tiny prick of blood. And then they claim that they can do a test on that and come up with any disease possible. So Theranos, Theronos. Here's the funny thing, right? Which anybody that's been to physics, anyone that's actually stayed in school, listened to high school level, not even high school, I would say lows like grade 3, grade 4, those in secondary school in the UK would be like first, second year of secondary school would know that you need more than this sample. Like blood tests are done in sample. So that if you have a blood test of this much, and then there's something serious going on, they ask for more blood tests. So the more tests you have, the stronger or more valid it is, right? The issue we had with COVID as well. COVID, there wasn't enough time to test. That's why people were angry. People didn't trust the vaccine because there wasn't enough time to develop the vaccine. So there were a lot of side effects, although it helped, but there was a lot of side effects. Same thing with Theranos. So Theranos came up with this sample size, and then they claimed that that's going to help. And investors were throwing money at this. 700 million. 700 million was thrown at this company, Theranos, from top investors. 700 million top. That's crazy. Like a sample of blood, like if someone came up to you and said, look, I just took a tiny test here and guess what, it turns out you are you've got a serious issue. The first thing I'll say is enough more, right? You need more samples here. It relies on sample. You can't do a tiny test and say that's it. You think that's so? Then there was also WeWork. WeWork was another one. WeWork was one of those that came up and said it was around COVID or just before COVID, they came out. And the point was that they would do like a remote office or office sharing, and what they would do then is that they had this cool, funky way of creating a vibe or structural business where you have a sublease and then they hire entire buildings and they lease them out to small startups. The issue with that, again, that makes sense. I agree, right? So the idea is that idea made sense. But here's the silly thing. That company was valued at 47 billion. So there's a company, and that's the same thing we have today with robo-taxis and all that just come up with crazy valuations. The idea makes sense. ChatGPT, AI, all these companies that come up and put AI behind their names, right? The idea makes sense. And that's where people make a mistake and think that they're investing in the idea. No, they're investing in valuation. Those are two different things. So WeWork, they had companies. So right now you can there's a company called Regos in the UK. They're also in the UK, Europe, US, Canada, actually in Africa as well. And they do the same thing. They're a very small company. They're not small, but they're global, okay? And they're not valued at 47 billion. If you invested in that company, do the same thing. They go in, they rent an office, and then they sub-rent each room to small companies that don't want to get the entire office. That's an idea. That's a great idea. But WeWork came up with the idea and claimed that the company was worth 47 billion. That was a problem. And that was just not realistic. And that's where the problem comes in. So you can have an idea, and then have a solution. When you have an idea and your value is so crazy, then that's where the scam comes in. That's what's called a bubble. Okay, so let's get that straight, right? If you have an idea, that makes sense, and the evaluation comes up too high, that's a bubble. If you have an idea that's coming, and look at us, yeah, we've got a ring. Great, lovely idea. You can tap to pay with this ring. If someone came to you, or our company came to you and we said, we're now worth 2 billion, come invest in us. Even I would say, whoa. Take it easy. I want to be rich, but not that rich, right? The same thing with Amazon. Amazon has got a valuation which matches what it's got in terms of revenue, in terms of the AWS, in terms of infrastructure it provides. Okay. But it's going up too high now in terms of revenue and what they're valued at. But in truth, your value and what you produce shouldn't be too far. And people can tell. A lot of people tell these things. But what happens is people think that if they run in and invest right now, they're coming in at the ground floor and they wait for the next fool to come in, right? But the point is, at that point, you're already the big fool. Come in, you're the greatest fool already, because the insiders are the ones that already have the inside track before it goes public. When you find out, it's too late. So all you're doing is you're putting fuel into the fire. And that was the issue with WeWork, where they were valued at 47 billion. At the end of the day, just a few of those buildings were not rented and it went off. Okay. There's also another one as well, which I remember, and I was this close. I think my wife was going to buy it, and then we didn't buy it with Juicero. So Juicero, Juice, ERO, Juicero. And they came up with an idea, smoothie maker. That was it. So they were a smoothie maker. That's all they did. But the idea was that, it's going to be a smart juicer where you put your fruit in it and then you roll it, or you press a button and it automatically squeezes it by hand and comes out with freshly squeezed juice. But the point is, it didn't need to be smart. If it was now, I can tell you, it's funny enough, right? Juicero, if Juicero came out now and put AI behind it, and then people are going to invest in it, people will be like, whoa, you have an AI that can squeeze juice, AI powered. Like, it's just how crazy. I'm not going to call them scams, but bubbles, right? And silly ideas come up, and how much people keep falling for it over and over again. Because you have to think, I'm like, whoa, why can't you just squeeze it yourself? Can you squeeze it yourself? Okay, good. Then do it. Or if you can't squeeze it yourself, can you buy something to do it? And that's where Juicero comes in. But Juicero should not be, I think they were selling it for $400, $500, where you could just buy a juicer for $50 to $100. You see what I'm saying about the value and the bubble? So they came in, Juicero came in, but because they were VC backed. Again, VCs are always, I don't like talking about investors, right? But again, luckily we haven't taken investors. We work for customers. Customers are our money. And that's why the value makes sense. Because if the VC comes in, they want to 100x their investment. So immediately they tell you, hey, how much are you going to sell this for? Triple the price. Okay. What else? Okay. Add subscription on top. Okay. What else? Get a big office. Okay. What else? Okay. I'm going to write you a check. Make sure you spend the money, so that the adverts just become crazy. The price goes up. Okay. So in this case, you could just buy a juicer. If you don't want to squeeze the orange with your hands, you could just buy a juicer. To buy a juicer, then it's about the same thing. It's about 50, 100. But you go in and you want to get an smart AI powered thing, and then it becomes crazy. So don't be surprised if our ring comes out tomorrow and then there's a competitor that comes out and calls it AI powered. Okay. Then it becomes like $500, right? So right now we're cheap, but reasonable, because that's what I think the value of the product should be. But don't be surprised if another company comes, mark my words, right? Someone's going to come up and maybe come up with a VC backed AI powered ring and then charge a crazy amount. To me, I think, again, a payment ring should be a payment ring not too far from what you pay for your smart ring. So your smart ring is effectively a payment ring as well, except it does help. So with this one, we do payment. So it's about the same as a payment ring. But if it goes up more than that, then it's a bubble, right? And then at some point people are going to not afford to buy it, or just realize, wait, it doesn't make sense to pay $500. Okay. So let's hope my competitors don't do that by the way. If you do that, then you're already in trouble. So you better bring the price down to match us. There's another one as well, which I used to like. And I love this idea, but it was too crazy. Again, the same thing. It's called Segway. If anyone remembers Segway, especially in the US, I think a few people are still trying to use it. That was the coolest thing ever. So it was a two-wheel bike where you stand on it and you lean forward and then it goes forward. That thing was so expensive. I think it was $500, which made no sense. But everyone was claiming that it's going to be the future. People investing money in it, throwing money in it as well. VC back. Investors were throwing money in it. They were like, whoa, this is going to reshape the entire urban structure in the world. That was gone as well. Same thing. Waste of time, too big, too expensive, out on the road. You could just get a scooter. Now, people get scooters. You get a scooter for $150. Segways are $500. That's crazy. That's what I'm saying about the value. I'm not saying Segway is not a good product. It's a good product. I'm not saying it wasn't a fun product. It's a fun product. It's not a scam, but the pricing did not make sense. And pricing doesn't make sense because investors come in and they push money in it. VCs, private equities, they push money in it and just drown the company. And then the founders are there, stuck trying to just make things work. Again, most founders always have brilliant ideas, okay? But as soon as they get stranded and they try to look for money, that's where the problem comes in. So luckily, we're not there yet. So I hope we definitely not get that. I love our customers. Our customers basically keep our lights on. I can tell you this light's on is because of my customers. So we'll continue to be there to support our customers. And hopefully no VC comes in and gives us money. Even if they do, we don't need it. So we definitely won't take it. But that's something to watch out for. Support, I think the message is support your small companies. companies. Don't look for crazy, crazy valuation companies that come in and just makes no sense. If you have a pizza store near you, support that pizza place instead of Domino's. That's just me, right? To support a small shop because those guys put a lot of effort. They're supported by you guys. That you guys fund them, which is better than some VC-backed huge chain that basically they don't know what they put into the menu. Okay. And the last one I'm going to talk about, obviously, is NFTs. So NFTs was a big one. Everyone remembers NFTs, right? So that was crazy. Even this, and that's recent because Zuckerberg has been quiet about it, right? I like Zuckerberg on this, but he's been so quiet about the whole metaverse. People were buying land for that they haven't seen, they won't touch. They're buying it for like close to $1 million. Like there was a land in a prime location for 1 million on the metaverse. So this is not even real. You can't even see it because you have to put on the glass to see it. That was $1 million. That was crazy. And again, the idea was it was purely digital, and then people hoped that you go up in value. Which again, if you're buying something with the hope that it goes up in value, that's the very definition of a bubble. If you're buying it, it's called looking for the greater fool, because you're buying it with the hope that someone else will pay more for it. You're not buying it because you like it. You're not buying it because you're going to use it. Yeah, you're not buying it because you will tap to pay. You're buying it because you hope someone else buys it for more value, right? And that's where the bubble comes in, because at some point it's going to pop. So even though you've taken your money out, you think you've taken your money out, but you haven't, because you're still in the economy that you've sold it to. So if you buy, and that's the issue I have with crypto and these guys that buy crypto, right? So if you go in and you order crypto or you buy a funny looking token, okay, that token that you think you've sold, okay, you think you've done and you've cashed out. No, you haven't. Because who did you sell it to? You sold it to someone who's greater, okay, who's paid more for it. And that person has sold it to someone who's paid off for it. So that at some point it's going to all come crashing down. So that the money you think you took out, you probably put the money in a bank that the person that you sold to took money from. So we're all linked, guys. If you learn something from this, learn something from all this crap that's going on online, that we're all linked together, so that if you think you've taken your money out, you really haven't, because it's still in the same ecosystem. So that at some point, one person who's going to lose all that money will drop the bank. Then the bank will be out of money. You will be out of money because you can't withdraw your money out of the system unless you go to another country. But countries are all linked now, so that countries owe each other. So that you can move to another country, but that country is indebted to the US, so that the US then calls on that debt, and then the country goes down. Then you're down, you're stuck in the Bahamas somewhere with no money because your bank can't afford to pay you anymore. So it's all linked together. So I think, guys, let's be careful with bubbles. I think that's a message. The five, I mean, I could go on all day on this, right? This is meant to be a short video. But there's five, be careful. Cyronics, or whatever they call themselves, please don't, guys, invest in good research. There's a lot of diseases that we have today that we need to cure. There's cancer, cure. There's AIDS. People are able to live with AIDS now, but we should be able to eradicate that. The sickle cell in Nigeria, which is big. Again, I try to donate towards that cause as well. There's a lot of hereditary diseases that we're going through right now that we can invest money in to give us a greater life. There's heart attack, there's heart diseases. Guys, please, okay? Stay safe and be careful and be smart. See you on the next one. And Oda Oroka, oroka.com. Bye.